Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. My name is Tanvi Sharma, and let me just. Our topic for today's Talking Tuesdays bonding and attachment. I hope you enjoyed our previous series of Know Your Baby. We just concluded it last week with the premature baby. Sorry, I'm just addicted to green coffee. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hi, everyone. We're just going to join in a minute. Just waiting for Divya. There she is. Just going to. Hi, Madhurya. Hi, Aparna.
Sandy. Maybe I need to check my credentials. Give me a moment.
Yes. Hi, everyone. We're just waiting for Divya to join. Our topic for today is bonding and attachment. We're starting actually a new series. So please stay tuned. All right. Divya is here.
Hi. Now can you see
Hi,
me?
Divya. Yeah, but it's very, very patchy and not very clear.
Maybe I should find a
Let
new location again today.
just one. But I,
Yeah, should I find a different location?
but I can. We can hear you well.
Well, then that's good enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So here we are today again for a Talking Tuesday. How many have we had now? Do you have any idea?
Um, I think we are now at
6 months?
yeah, probably. Let me
Okay.
just tell you. Maybe probably 30th or something.
Wow. I remember you mentioned 20th
31st.
once, but I don't.
Today's the
Wow. So,
31st.
okay. Okay, that's interesting. And we've gone through a journey of prenatal, we've gone through some birth, we've gone through babies. But if you're ready for today, I want to dive right in because this is something that has been under the surface for a very long time, and I'd like to say it now. So, um,
Yeah,
in
back
a
again.
moment. Yeah. So, over the last 20 years that I have practiced, and the last 25 years that I've been a mother, and the last 15 years that I've been a person, first a child and an adult, and now at 50, I have, if I look back, I have seen some kind of change. And I've always been curious of what drives our society, what shapes our opinion, how do we value things? Because we cannot really understand who we are and what we want until we are able to separate out the influences that are shaping us and who we truly are. And you will find that result in a lot of people who have a very successful, ambitious career. By 40 or 45, they're burning out, or they're saying, oh, well, there's nothing in it. There's so much disenchantment in the world. And we've seen all kinds of spiritual gurus and practices sprout up, which truly, without really getting into the specifics of it, tells us that we are looking at a world that uh, is messaging us or shaping us to value something. But over a period of time, our lived experience is not in congruence, or it doesn't actually reflect those values, and something is missing in our lives. And all of us feel that way, and it's okay to feel that way once in a while. And for majority of us, that might be a change. I've grown up and I need to change and relook and reevaluate. But the conditioning of what is important is so strong that sometimes we don't do that work organically. And then when I was thinking about that, as reflecting on my own journey, I was thinking about parenting, and I was thinking on how what I wanted as a mother for my child. And then when I hear certain things from others, some of them are quite similar and some of them are completely divergent. And to my mind, they don't make any sense. But I also have to acknowledge, to that person's mind, they're making perfect sense. You know, we started to live in a world that is so polarized between right and wrong. I'm going to take a few more minutes because it's important we get this context right of this series when we present information. We are living in a world which is so polarized between right and wrong that we're not willing to listen to another way. And the reason we've become defensive is because there's a lot of judgment around everything. It is so, and what we call science. And I'm going to present an example for parenting here. In fact, a couple of them. That say to you that really take science with a pinch of salt. Humanity has survived a millennia. It was only in the last couple of centuries that we started to say, look at our history as civilized. It was the last 100 years where we became scientific in nature, early 1900s. And what science did to our children, we are reeling under the effect of that right now. This is not to say that it hasn't given us gems that make our life better, but we must inquire because science is all about inquiry. We must inquire whether this serves us or not. And that is all what I hope to present today. So, and I'll come to my own experience later, but I read an article, a book actually. It's called Infants and Mothers, and it's by T. Barry Brazelton. He was a pediatrician at the Harvard University, hospital. So he comes under that purview of science. And he's written this book, and in his very first chapter, he said that me and three other colleagues, so four doctors, wanted to do a small research project or a study project. And other than APGAR scoring, which, if somebody doesn't know, is the scoring of well-being that we do for a newborn to see their appearance, their grimace, their breathing, all of that, APGAR scoring, which says whether they need intervention on health for survival or not. He has put up some scales for newborn behavior. That tells us how the baby is responding to the world. And he says he's doing research for that. And this is in the era of the 70s. So we are talking of the decade of the 1970s. And he's doing this research, and they are looking at, and this is an interesting project, because they're looking at twin boys. And they're observing behavior over a 1 week period, which takes about 30 hours of each consultant, which is 120 hours of observation. And they make detailed notes of how these twins who are so-called identical are different from each other. And then what they've also done, that in the first day, they've asked the mother to hold each of the babies for 20 minutes and note down her recording of how she feels they are different. What they found is that her record in those 20 minutes was more detailed, was more comprehensive than what they found in a week's observation. And that's just the story. What stood out for me is this understanding that a mother knows her child in ways that science has yet not measured. And unfortunately, I stand here at 2 decades of work, and I find I get calls from mothers who are more anxious, underconfident, uh, doubting themselves. And I always wonder, what did we do wrong that we have brought these women at the most beautiful time of their life, the most powerful time of their life, to a state of a mess where they're looking outside to experts. So I'm going to put that in context. So what this series is going to be about is understanding the baby in a deep internal way. But that's one part of the equation. And we've done a lot of that, and we talked about from the baby's point of view over and
Yeah.
over and over again. But I find that at this point, it is incomplete if we don't support the families to experience that baby in a holistic and natural way. And I'm using that word very deliberately. Experience the baby holistic and naturally, because then they've lost an experience. They may have brought up a child, and the child will be just fine. But there's a personal loss. And for me, that is really, really significant, because what is the purpose of us being in this world and all these experiences if we're not truly embodying the ones that nature has gifted to us,
True.
being a parent? So this series is all about parent and infant, but not just from the infant's point of view. So we'll know the infant from the scientific point of view, but the experience of the parent. And how does that sound for a change? Because we've shifted the focus just slightly. It is also recognizing that the mother and the baby are not separate from each other. So if we want to keep the child center stage, we have to keep the mother, the father, the family along, and we can't separate the two. And that is the key of attachment and bonding. Attachment makes unit. They function as a unit now and then forever in the future. So that's
Right.
my start. The other very interesting, so there are many people who have studied attachment. I wonder why we needed to study it. Again, my inquiry, I mean, sometimes I feel that my inquiry is that of a 2-year-old, because it plays from topic to topic. But it's interesting that as I read on these diverse topics, in my head, it makes a big picture. They're parts of the same picture. So why have all these scientists, these pediatricians, these researchers, so there are psychologists, there are sociologists, there are pediatricians, there are researchers, there are so many different fields that have studied the baby from a specific point of view. And this was my second point, that not only have we outsourced wisdom, knowing, to the experts, we are not recognizing that they've fragmented it into so many different pieces that we're not able to make sense. And the simplest example is the mother who calls us and says, my babies, I'm not making enough milk. And I'm like, whoa, okay. How do you know that? How do you understand? So there are a few things that come up, and she says, my baby cries a lot, but crying is not always low milk supply. My baby doesn't sleep. And so the next question is, so how long does your baby sleep? Only 2 hours at a time. And that's the fragmentation. that we're talking about breast milk is good, but we're not talking about the mother and the baby while breast milk is being talked about. So we also want to bring that fragmentation. That is why we are going to loop between parents and babies, and we're going to move from one to the other when we talk about bonding and attachment today. So that is my premise, and I think it's taken a while, but I think anybody who's listening to this in the future might want to think about these things. So let's talk about bonding and let's talk about attachment. Bonding is the behavior or the what the mother does or the father does towards the baby. So it's unidirectional from the parent to the baby. So the parents do activities which are bonding activities or bonding behavior, which is basically caretaking, paying attention. So they are starting something, but the baby has specific behaviors that elicits that response from the parents, and those are called attachment behaviors. But attachment is a relationship which is bidirectional between the parent and the baby that creates something inside, a deep knowing that this is my system. And what adds to it, and this is how child psychologists have divided it, they say that if the baby truly believes in that system, that would be a secure attachment. And once that is established, it's like set in cement, and that doesn't break because if on that, everything else follows. So if a baby or a child begins to believe that my parents are there and they are available to me, then even when they are not there, say going to a preschool, or even when they are not there, when you're 40 years old and you call up your parents when you need them, that would be the foundation of that relationship, so that attachment. And so it is also not what the parents do, but also what the baby perceives that to be. And if we now look at the list of to-do lists that parents are burdened by, you have to do this, you have to do this should be happening, this should be happening. Not only are they burdened by that list, but the very anxiety of performance is actually making them unavailable to them. So we want to look at attachment and bonding from what nature has already pre-coded in us so that we can optimize that, and it's a given. So think of a time when we had no scientific knowledge and we lived true to our natures, or we were less distracted in life. What would we do when we would have children? We would keep them close. You see all cultures, they all wear the babies. So they are always in response to the baby without judging the baby to do something or be somewhere. And those are the cultures that have sustained themselves. They have holistic outcomes in terms of disease, mental disorders. They are the ones who have progressed. So we say that this attachment would be then the foundation of our growth, our health. And we can look at it that way as well. So a lot of people have studied, and the research first started, or the idea of bonding and attachment first started with John Bowlby, and he was in early, let me check that, I don't want to get that. That was in the early mid of the last century, so which was the 1950s, 51, 52, and he had started studying. What they had done before that they were looking at, some experiments or research being done on non-human primates. So they were looking at these separation issues because in nature, mammals don't let go of their young ones. They take care. And it's done in a very process-oriented fashion. There's not really like how much is too much, I have to do this. There's no such narrative that goes around. But human lives are different. But they're looking at non-human primates, and they find that babies who were separated or not paid attention by mothers showed certain mental issues, psychological issues, behavioral issues, and so on and so forth. And they were looking at it. And including a very interesting experiment where they put up a wire monkey with a bottle, so food from the mother, versus a cloth monkey where the baby could hang on to the mother. So it's interesting that baby monkeys prefer the cloth wire, not the food wire. We think that babies look for food, but babies don't look for food. They need proximity, and proximity is one of the behaviors that encourages attachment. So when your baby cries to you, He's basically seeking proximity. And it's not for only a need. The need could also be proximity itself. I want to be held. I want you to be here because my brain is not able to understand by whatever it's able to receive whether I'm safe or not. And when parents keep responding to that, they are actually laying foundations of saying, I love you, you're safe, I love you. So, and that would be secure. Love and safety would add and become secure. So when we talk about attachment, we are going to, in like say, okay, now we can talk about theory from here to kingdom come. But what we really want to do in the next coming week is to get practical. But we also want to shut down this highly thinking brain to say, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to like, this is a pathway nature has designed it. This is how you can get to it, and let nature take its course. So it's interesting that right at birth, when the baby is born, and they look for the voice, and the mother speaks, and he lifts his head and looks at the mother, something happens to the mother itself. So the mother's brain says is rewarded. There's a burst of reward hormone that says, "Oh my God, the baby recognized me. What would that do to her?" Then she would want to call out to the baby again, and then there'll be so there is she said something, the baby responded, she has received the response, and she's responded to that, and so there's a very nice interlinking that is happening between the baby and the mother. In our previous series, we had talked about overstimulation, to say for the adult to regulate and say, okay, now the baby doesn't want more, but and also pay attention when the baby does want, but the interaction itself is such a reward that creates that bonding. So she will be now encouraged to do that behavior again. In doing that, the baby will get a sense of security, and an attachment or a relationship will come. And as the baby grows, he'll know that when I smile, my mother will respond. When I cry, my mother will respond. When I need her attention, I have to make these eyes and my mother will respond. There are moments, I'm sure you have them too, when the baby just looks at you with a certain expression and says, oh my God, I want to eat this baby alive. That is nature creating that wave that pushes you towards bonding. And there is a survival imperative to this, because human babies have a very long infancy, almost up to mid-20s. And they do need parents who are committed to look after them for that much time, while they are going to become teenagers and rude and answer back and explore boundaries and rebel. But they want this very invested parents who continue to keep putting into them. And they make the foundation of that right in the beginning. And they make googly eyes at their parents, and they respond to their parents, and they reach out and touch their parents, which is all the attachment behaviors the babies do, and the bonding behaviors that the mother has, the need to take care, the need to nurture, the need to protect, which is hormonally driven. So, when mothers are feeling like, will I be a good mom? Will I know what to do? I just want to give them a hug and say, see, you already have so much already pre-coded in you that you really don't have to worry. In fact, your worry is getting in the way. How about you just take a day, an hour, a moment to enjoy it? Just be and say, okay, my child loves me for who I am, and I love him or her. And what does that come to? And it'll be a very interesting phenomena. In fact, we share these stories amongst us, and we were talking a couple of days ago for a common client, and we heard that after worrying about breastfeeding for almost 4 5 months, she decided to go for a holiday and stop thinking about stuff. And lo and behold, the baby is happier, putting on weight, enjoying the mother, enjoying the weather, the mother's enjoying the holiday, and there you are. So, in a world that has now become so specialist driven, we have forgotten that the true expert on the baby is the parent. And there is a fantastic book, and hopefully we'll review it, which is called The 6 Stages of Parenthood. And the 6 stages of parenthood actually defines the metamorphosis a human being goes through by the very virtue of having a child. Even though each one will have a unique journey, but each one will change. And the catalyst of that change is the baby themselves. And so therefore, this whole idea of bonding, we cannot dictate it. Attachment, we cannot dictate it. We can do behaviors that encourage. So the question is, how do you, if you and I are there, how do I prove to you or make you feel that I care? Here's the loophole. A lot of us, knowingly or unknowingly, will do what our parents did. So we parent as we were parented. And believe me, I used to think, I will never do that to my children. And I say exactly the same words
Same.
that my mother would say to me, and it makes me smile. So this is not again a judgment on any parenting, but this is a very simple understanding that unless we become mindful and come into the moment and see the baby for who that baby is, we are going to live in paradigms that are being programmed into us, either by our own parenting journey, how we were parented, or by the society at large. So the things like don't pick up your child too much, or don't sleep with your child, or give the baby one bottle to make them independent. Inquiry is really good. I'll give you an answer about now. This is the personal part. So, I also was programmed with this idea that breastfeeding is best and is something you have to achieve. And lo and behold, I had some trouble, which is very natural because two people are coming into a relationship. But I didn't think of it that way. I thought, oh my God, if I don't breastfeed, I'm failed as a mother. And then everybody, instead of being supportive around me, said, oh, but we've also brought up our children. You give the baby one top feed, you'll be happier, the baby will be happier. And one day I got really upset. The baby was right next to me, he was crying, my son, and I put a bottle and this thing, and I said, okay. So my aunt who was giving me this advice said, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm waiting for this child to get independent. He will get up and make his own bottle and have it, and then he'll be independent. Well, that shut her up. But I did take a part of her advice. I decided to be happier. So I turned around and said, sorry, baby, I had to do that. Because I had to shut one voice off before I could listen to his voice. And thereafter, I only let him be the guide of what I wanted. But also that internal radar. Where am I coming from? So a lot of discipline issues were I was over disciplined. So I may have tended to be a little lax, but then I learned my lesson because the baby taught me. And like my grandmother said, the best teacher that you have on parenting is your own child. So that's our beginning of this series, which brings in a perspective for parents who also deserve our attention, our love, our support, and for God's sake, a voice that says they've got it. If nature thinks they can be parents, who are we to disagree?
Absolutely. So that was really, really good. I was like in another zone listening to you and just putting myself in the same, shoes. And the parent you're talking about, it seems it was me you were talking
And
about.
me. And I don't know
Yeah,
how many more people will relate to it. I
correct.
hope if you find a relation to what I said, leave us a comment.
Yes. So this is for everybody, to be parents, parents who just had a baby, or even parents to toddlers. We will be, talking about bonding and attachment and, other perspective we will be bringing in from parenting point of view, but it is going to be you this time.
Yeah.
So,
Also
yes,
this idea that you're missing the boat, you're not good enough, you're not doing it right. And I think while there's great value to understanding why these things are important, like there is this whole thing about that as you have to meet the baby right away. Yes, it's a sensitive period. It is desirable to meet babies right after they're born. That's the least resistive part of bonding if you get that skin to skin. But what about mothers who have C-section? What about families who are unable
yeah,
to? What if who have challenges? How do we support them? So we saying that if we are adopted parents, we cannot have a secure attachment. We may have missed the bonding. Um, let's say the autonomous bonding window, which is self-driven. But can we not have secure attachment then? So we are going to look at these things. We want to look at these little things where some people fall through the cracks because we're holding on to an idea of ideal. And we are going to bring it back to human spirit. So the human spirit says possibilities and healing anytime.
Yes.
And that's where we
Uh,
are going to go with this series.
right. We've also, heard from like people keep sending us messages and keep calling us if they are, facing any issues or troubles. So we've also heard somebody who said that, I I can't bond with the baby.
Yeah,
It's been a couple of months and I
yeah,
don't feel any bond.
yeah, yeah. So, now again, I'm going to bring that sense of inquiry. I'm going to use it like practically here. For me, that statement itself is the question. When this human being, whose innate quality is there to bond, to associate, to be social, is missing out on this most uh, easiest way made bond, because the hormones are there, the baby's behavior is there, the way he looks is there, everything is there. When that is missing, what can we inquire into? So, what is it that is stopping her to express her full potential or reaching there? And that could be her own birth stories, her own relationship with her own mother, the situation of her life right now, unprocessed birth. There's trauma from birth which is still unprocessed, because the minute there is a bit of a threatening situation in our life now or in the past, our defense mechanisms come up, and those speak, that are not allowing us to fully integrate, this particular moment. Where are the walls coming up? And like I said, possibility and healing is at any moment. How can our behavior to her, how can our encouragement to her, how can our capability of showing humanity to her help her transcend that? How many times have we told people who are saying, oh, but I don't know, all of this is happening, I'm not making milk, the baby comes to me, the baby cries, the baby moves away. And a lot of us just say, okay, for the next couple of days, no agenda, no clock, no time, just hold the baby, skin to skin. There's the reversal. So there's a possibility of taking a U-turn and going back. But what can we cannot give what we don't have. As mothers, I think we are but put on a pedestal that, maybe not pedestal, we're like Atlas that carries the weight of the world on our shoulders with the should have, could have, things that we are told. So nobody checks with the mother that up until today, you have a life, you have an experience. And I say this for birth as well. You're not living in a vacuum. Now suddenly, your earth goddess mama. How about your needs being met? How about us as a society, you and me, Tanvi, as my child first, showing these mamas what it is to be cared for? I mean, after all, we are asking them to care for this baby. So, how about that? And when we hear that, that's usually an indicator that she is feeling unfulfilled or empty, or her defenses are way up. So our question shouldn't be, oh, how strange you're not bonding with the baby, or, give it more time, it will happen. Because there's enough imperative by nature for it to happen. We want to say, okay, for a moment, park that, motherhood aside and tell me what's going on with you. How are you feeling? Because not only is she feeling whatever else has brought her to this point, now she's feeling also guilt for the not bonding.
True.
And we know that this attachment is something that happens over time. It does not happen instantaneously. You may, but see, this is the beauty of it, that the bonding period in that sensitive period is so heightened, that all the facilities are so heightened that it's like saying that you've got the right gear to go into motion. If you don't have the right engine, rev up, your car won't move. So that early period has that rev up that will easily, push you into that. But if you miss that period, or for some reason that is dampened by other things in your life, how can we support you to rev it up again? Because, you feel love arise in you many times when you look at a puppy, when you look at a baby crying. You can feel it many times. You can feel it even if you've not had children. because love, empathy, compassion are innate human qualities. So, what is going on in her life, or what has happened in her life that is unresolved, that is dampening it? That should be our inquiry. And how can we
Yeah,
support her? We cannot support our babies, however well meaning the family is and how much they ever love the baby. They cannot fully support a baby if the mother is excluded from their care. And I think one of the biggest things we can do is drop judgment and make an inquiry, because you're a person, what's going on with you? And sometimes that's all is needed. You know, how many times when we do breastfeeding support and when the baby actually latches, the mother starts crying
true.
because she's been blaming herself, she's been feeling guilty for choices. There is so much this right and wrong polarization, like I said, is putting a burden on human beings, not just moms and babies, but even men, that we're actually busy defending ourselves with no idea how to nurture ourselves or other people. And that would be this series, I think. That's for sure.
Great. Awesome. That's a great start to our new series. And we'll be back next Tuesday. We are going to announce a complete schedule for our this series. And we are going to have really, really exciting topics
Yeah.
for the series as well. So watch out for our Insta handle. We will be announcing soon on different dates. We'll also be bringing some of our friends.
Expert.
Yes, some of the experts as well to our Talking Tuesdays in this series. So we are going to see you next Tuesday. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
So we're going to play it like a jigsaw puzzle. You'll have a big picture, and then each expert will give you one part of it, and you can fit it into your picture the way you think, because you're the expert on your life and your thinking.
Yes. Thank you so much.